Hi friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Films. My name is Alan. When it comes down to movies nowadays, more or less, they seem to all tell the same few stories over and over again. That's why we rarely feel like we're seeing anything new in theaters nowadays. We're always telling our friends how the latest movie that we saw reminds us a lot of that other movie we saw last year. Now, a lot of this obviously has to do with Hollywood's inability to take risks anymore. You have brands like Marvel, Star Wars, Pixar, basically anything the mouse owns, that are guaranteed to make a profit. I mean, why would you risk your money on a new brand that doesn't have a proven track record? Because at the end of the day, making a movie is like starting a temporary company. The new Avengers film cost over $300 million. So yeah, guaranteed returns are necessary. But every now and then you go to the theater and you see a movie that's fresh, new, and experimental, and it's a rewarding experience, especially if it turns out to be a good movie that's actually entertaining. Sometimes this is done through the narrative of the film, other times it's done through creative camera work or set design. And that's kind of what I want to talk to you guys about today. 5 films that used extremely unique film techniques. The Revenant was one of those award-winning films that had popular appeal. It doesn't take a film critic to understand why this simple story of survival and revenge is appealing to the audience. But the one thing that really made this movie stand out, in my opinion, was the cinematography. Director Alejandro Inarritu wanted to shoot the entire film with natural light. The movie was filmed in the extreme wilderness in Canada and Argentina, and lugging around giant light sets, grip equipment, and generators just didn't seem to make sense. The minimalistic camera setup was also less distracting for the actors, including Leonardo DiCaprio, who really gave it his all. I mean, I've never really seen someone want to win the Academy Awards for Best Actor as much as he did. His experience involved hiking half the day just to get to the set, and then occasionally plunging into ice-cold rivers, sleeping in animal carcasses, and then eating raw animal organs. But perhaps one of the most amazing things about this film was that cinematographer Emanuel Lubezki chose to wait until magic hour to shoot a large percentage of the film. So magic hour is the hour where the sun is right around the horizon. During this time, sunlight isn't direct and harsh like during the middle of the day. That means less shadows and less overexposed patches on the screen. The majority of the light from the sun is instead bounced down from the clouds and atmosphere, creating an extremely soft and beautifully saturated color. This is why The Revenant to me was one of the most visually appealing films I'd ever seen. While the journey the main character went on was brutal and harsh, Lubezki brilliantly captured the beauty of the isolated locations he traveled through. It was even more impressive because the movie was filmed at the extreme latitudes of the planet during winter, which meant that magic hour lasted even shorter. That meant some shots had to be rehearsed all day, and then when the lighting was perfect, the crew had at most 1 or 2 shots to get the scene right. This is why it took The Revenant almost 1 year to wrap up principal photography. You might have heard of another award-winning movie that was made by Alejandro Inarritu and Emanuel Lubezki called Birdman. Using interesting transitions and camera movements, they were able to make their film Birdman seem like one long continuous shot. But in 2002, an experimental film called The Russian Ark actually did an entire 96-minute movie with 1 shot. The movie followed the first-person view of a ghost as he wanders through the Winter Palace in Russia's Hermitage Museum. The film covers around 33 rooms and has over 2,000 actors, along with 3 separate orchestras. The cinematographer and camera operator Tillman Butner shot the entire sequence using a large cinema camera with a Steadicam. It's hard enough to wear a setup that could weigh easily over 70 pounds for just a few minutes, let alone operate it for an entire hour and a half with no rest. Definitely takes a lot of experience, strength, and focus to accomplish this. The crew managed to get the shot right on the 4th attempt, just before the batteries ran out. While our last film only took 1 day to film, the movie Boyhood was filmed over several years. Unlike most movies which cast different age actors to portray the same characters as they age, director Richard Linklater decided to use the same actors and have them age 12 years in real life, matching the narrative in the film. And while the characters grew, so did the story. Linklater never had a complete script, just basic plot points. He watched each of the actors grow and develop and took their experiences and wrote the narratives around that. The movie was given a $200,000 budget per year, and Linklater was given complete creative control, which is really amazing because the producers essentially gave Linklater $2.4 million over 12 years without asking to see any results until the very end. Filming a giant feature film is very different from the small movies you might have made when you were a kid. 90% of the work goes into planning, rehearsing, logistics, and other things that are extremely taxing. The actual filmmaking is just a small part of it. And oftentimes, because of how complicated these modern cameras are, multiple people are operating it, and very rarely will the visionary who created the project find themselves actually behind the camera filming. Then there's all the lighting, sets, characters who need to be ready as well. It's really a nightmare to keep it all together. That's why sometimes filmmakers like to return to their basic roots. The film Act of Valor utilized the consumer DSLR Canon 5D Mark II for the entire production. The film featured real-life Navy SEALs as actors, and many of the scenes were actual wartime drills and filmed on location without any sets. The 5D was extremely easy to operate, could fit into small areas, and more importantly, didn't draw too much attention towards the camera crew. The film Unsane went a step further by using the iPhone 7 Plus to capture the entire movie in 4K. Director Steven Soderbergh, who is also the cinematographer and camera operator for the film, called the experience liberating. We end this list with the very film we criticized in the beginning. Avengers: Infinity War was widely hailed as a terrific and exciting movie, and I'd have to agree. But what really made me impressed about this movie was how Marvel was able to combine more than a decade's worth of film and stories and neatly have it come together and mesh so well in this one movie. It's a long-term project that is no less ambitious than the film Boyhood. And so much depends on this Avengers: Infinity War film, and so far it seems to be doing really well both critically and in the box office. Well guys, that's my list of 5 movies. Let me know what you guys think. Don't forget to subscribe and also like us on Facebook. Thanks for joining us today, and remember, life is a movie and you are the protagonist.